जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Lovely. Hare Krishna, like Narsinga Rupa Prabhu was saying in the beginning, today is a very auspicious day. Yesterday was Janmashtami, the appearance day of Lord Sri Krishna, and today is celebrated as Nandotsava. Nanda Maharaj, after the birth of his son, had a big festival today. It's called the Festival of Nanda, Nandotsava. But for us in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, we have a double treat today. It's not just Nandotsava, but also the appearance day of our founder Acharya, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The appearance day of an Acharya is called Vyasa Puja. So today we are celebrating the Vyasa Puja of Srila Prabhupada also. Like 1 second, I just need to adjust. I'll adjust. So I thought we'll read a verse from the Gita and speak a little bit about Srila Prabhupada. So you can repeat if you like, but before that, please repeat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 75. How many chapters does the Gita have, do you know? 18. And how many verses in the 18th chapter, you know? Huh? You said something? No, 700 is the total verses in the Gita. But just how many verses in the 18th chapter, you know? 78. We are reading 75. 1875. So it has 78 verses. We're like the fag end of the Gita. This is, and something incredible Sanjaya says in this verse. So I'll read the verse, translation and purport. Vyasat prasadat shrutavan etad guhyam aham param yogam yogeshwarat krishnat sakshat katayata swayam. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So this is the word-for-word translation for the verse we read. Vyasa prasadat, by the mercy of Vyasadev, you can repeat along with me. Shrutavan, have heard. Etat, this. Guhyam, confidential. Aham, I. Param, the supreme. Yogam, mysticism. Yoga Ishwarat, from the master of all mysticism. Krishnat, from Krishna. Sakshat, directly. Kathayatha, speaking. Swayam, personally. Translation. By the mercy of Vyasa, I have heard these most confidential talks directly from the master of all mysticism, Krishna, who was speaking personally to Arjuna. So the speaker of this verse is Sanjaya, who is not in the battlefield. As all of you know, the Gita was spoken in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. But Sanjaya and his master are there in his house. So Sanjaya has had this mystic power where he could see what was happening in the battlefield. And here he acknowledges by whose mercy he was actually able to do it at the end of the Gita. He says, by the mercy of Vyasa. So purport by Srila Prabhupada. Safari? Oh, in Veda base. Better? Okay. Purport. Vyasa was the spiritual master of Sanjaya, and Sanjaya admits that it was by Vyasa's mercy that he could understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This means that one has to understand Krishna not directly but through the medium of the spiritual master. The spiritual master is the transparent medium, although it is true that the experience is still direct. This is the mystery of the disciplic succession. When the spiritual master is bona fide, then one can hear Bhagavad Gita directly as Arjuna heard it. There are many mystics and yogis all over the world, but Krishna is the master of all yoga systems. Krishna's instruction is explicitly stated in Bhagavad Gita. Surrender unto Krishna. One who does so is the topmost yogi. This is confirmed in the last verse of the 6th chapter, Yoginam api sarvesham. Narada is the direct disciple of Krishna and the spiritual master of Vyasa. Therefore, Vyasa is as bona fide as Arjuna because he comes in the disciplic succession. And Sanjaya is the direct disciple of Vyasa. Therefore, by the grace of Vyasa, Sanjaya's senses were purified and he could see and hear Krishna directly. One who directly hears Krishna can understand this confidential knowledge. If one does not come to the disciplic succession, he cannot hear Krishna. Therefore, his knowledge is always imperfect, at least as far as understanding Bhagavad Gita is concerned. In Bhagavad Gita, all the yoga systems, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga are explained. Krishna is the master of all such mysticism. It is to be understood, however, that as Arjuna was fortunate enough to understand Krishna directly, so by the grace of Vyasa, Sanjaya was also able to hear Krishna directly. Actually, there is no difference between hearing directly from Krishna and hearing directly from Krishna via a bona fide spiritual master, like Vyasa. The spiritual master is a representative of Vyasadeva also. Therefore, according to the Vedic system, on the birthday of the spiritual master, the disciples conduct the ceremony called Vyasa Puja. Okay, you can follow along. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Deve Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Don't need this for now. So here in this verse, Prabhupada gives quite a few details. So at the end of the Gita, we've come to the end of the Gita here, and he tells us how we can actually know what Krishna is saying. How we can actually understand what Krishna is saying in the Gita. Actually, this topic has been discussed thoroughly throughout the Gita, but in the end, Sanjay himself is summarizing. And Prabhupada uses this word quite often, bona fide spiritual master. Anybody know what bona fide is? Bona fide means? Genuine? Any other? Certified. Yeah. That's certified, authorized, right? That's what bona fide means. But how do you authorize somebody, right, in this world? How would we authorize somebody? Like, if you want to learn something, you want to learn from an authority, right? How do you consider somebody an authority? Any guesses? By their quality? Can you explain a little bit more? By their actions? Okay. By their knowledge? Yeah, these are all very valid points, right? Say I want to learn physics. I would want to see if the person is actually knowledgeable in physics. He actually acts properly and so many things. But at least in the world that we live in, we give people certificates, right? If I want to learn physics, I learn from a teacher who has actually learned physics from another teacher. And not just any teacher, but in a university or a school that's actually been accredited, right? This is the process that we follow in our day-to-day lives to learn anything. And yet, when it comes to spiritual life, we think we can do it all. But Prabhupada in this purport mentions something fundamental that actually, even with a spiritual master, is very difficult to learn materially. Right? If you want to learn physics, do you think you can become perfect in physics? You can know everything that you need to know in physics. How many of you think? Even if you had the best, Einstein, you had Einstein for your teacher, right? Or Newton. It's very difficult because of one thing specifically that Prabhupada mentions in this purport. When we try to gather knowledge, how do we usually try to gather knowledge in this world? Any ideas? How would you gather knowledge in this world? Through hearing? How else? Through experience, through teacher, right? Very nice answers. But the first thing that we use is senses actually. Like you're coming into this room for the first time, you're trying to figure things out, right? Get a sense of what this room is. So you use your eyes, the sense of smell, hear what's happening. So we try to use our senses first, and through senses we develop experiences. And therefore over time, we think, oh, in this scenario, based on my experience, this should happen. Right? This is how we try to estimate things. But there is a problem with our senses, is that the senses are imperfect. I cannot see without my glasses. And even if I had a 20/20 vision, I can only see a very specific spectrum of light. Right? I cannot see at night without light. Same thing with my ear. They call this the dog whistle, right? Because it has frequencies that are much higher than what humans can hear. So we have this fundamental problem of how our senses are imperfect. And we base all our knowledge on our senses, which are imperfect. Therefore, the knowledge that we might gather will also be imperfect. Right? Therefore, if we have to know about, if we have to gain knowledge, and if that knowledge has to be perfect, we have to go to a source that doesn't have these imperfections. And it's not just the senses. We have other problems also. It's just not our senses are imperfect. How many of us have never committed a mistake in our life? I've committed, every day I commit some mistake or the other. We have the tendency to commit mistakes, right? Our senses are imperfect. We have the tendency to cheat also. And we are in illusion. The biggest illusion is that we think we are these bodies and we act from that perspective. We don't know what our real identities are. Therefore, when we try to gather knowledge on these imperfect platforms, then the knowledge that we acquire also becomes imperfect. But there is a source where there is none of these imperfections present. And that is God himself, or Krishna, who is the speaker of the Gita. And Krishna was fortunately present in front of Arjuna, and Arjuna could hear directly from Krishna. But Krishna is not present now in front of us. Krishna is present, but we cannot perceive him. So in such a scenario, are we completely shut out from knowledge itself? This verse actually gives us a clue on how we can actually access that knowledge, access that perfection. It is through the medium of a bona fide spiritual master. In this verse, Sanjaya is specifically showing his gratitude to his spiritual master, Vyasadeva, where by the mercy of Vyasadeva, he was able to see and perceive and hear everything that was happening in the battlefield, the conversation that was happening between Krishna and Arjuna. And this bona fide spiritual master essentially means the spiritual master has actually been a student first. The spiritual master actually had a teacher. That's one quality. What else is the quality of an authorized teacher? What else can you think? When we say, this is an authorized person to teach physics, for example, or any subject that you like, just quoting physics. Having in-depth knowledge, yeah, he's very knowledgeable of the subject matter itself, right? Yes, he's been a very, very good student. What else? There is one important quality actually. Yeah, you're not making stuff up, right? You're passing on what you've actually learned or realized. And there's a difference. But you're not making stuff up, right? So this is an essential quality of a bona fide spiritual master. That the spiritual master follows in a disciplic succession, which means he has a spiritual master, his spiritual master has a spiritual master, and it goes all the way to the source, which is Krishna himself. Therefore, your message is perfect as long as you do not tamper with the message. The source is perfect, and if you present the message as it is, then your message is perfect. Although we might have so many imperfections, but if you present the message as it is, then your message becomes perfect. And that is why when Srila Prabhupada translated and commented the Gita, he named it the Bhagavad Gita as it is. As it is. When Srila Prabhupada came to America in 1965, a lady actually asked Srila Prabhupada to recommend him an English translation of the Gita. Prabhupada is thinking, at this point in 1965, do you know how many translations of the Gita in English existed? Any guesses? 50, 100, 200? Huh? 5, 6? No. Plenty. About 200, 300 at least. Translations of the Gita existed in 1965. But Prabhupada couldn't recommend one to this lady. Because what everybody was doing was not presenting Krishna's message as it is. They say the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Right? When you read the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's message is very clear. He says, Sarvadharman paridyajya mamekam sharanam raja. Aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami masucha. He says, abandon all varieties of religion. Like what Prabhupada mentions, throughout the Gita he speaks about karma, jnana, dhyana. Ultimately he says, Arjuna, you don't have to do all of these. But you have to surrender to me. Mamekam, only to me. Sharanam raja. Then I'll take care of you. Do not fear. This is Krishna's final message. But how many devotees did any of those books make? When you read the book. Because none of those books presented the message as it is. But when Prabhupada wrote his Gita, you can see how many devotees of the Lord were created all over the world. I wouldn't say created, but how many of them took up to the message of Krishna? Because the message by itself is really potent as long as we don't tamper with it. But if we want to put our imperfections in the message becomes imperfect, and therefore it is not sustainable. So this was Srila Prabhupada. And when I was thinking about what to speak about Srila Prabhupada, this is like an ocean. Just like how Krishna is unlimited, the spiritual master, the Guru, is also unlimited. And especially Srila Prabhupada, who is an acharya, who did so many things. But I was thinking about a few qualities. This especially I got inspiration from one of my friends whom I was hearing many years back speaking about another acharya called Jiva Goswami. And he mentioned several qualities that he had, which even our own Srila Prabhupada had. The first of which is him being scholarly. Right? We've read from Srila Prabhupada's book. And if you have all the material that you have, if you say you're going to write a book, and now you have everything that you need to write the book, you just have to sit down and start writing the book. How much time do you think it'll take to publish a book? You know everything that you need to write. You have the material and everything. You just need to put it down and then go through the rigors of editing and proofreading and publishing and all of that. How many? 1 year? Any other guesses? Yeah, it takes about 2 years, they say. If you want to flesh out a nice book with all the material, it takes about 2 years for you to actually publish a book. And Srila Prabhupada published about 80 books, which were about 125 volumes during his 10 years. And all this he did in a period of 10 years, from 12 years, you could say, 1965 to 1977. Which means it should have taken him how long? 250 years to write all of this, right? Because think about it. If you're writing something, like I compose emails for work. So initially I put everything that I want to say. But then that's not the first thing I send, right? I reword it and make sure the message is right, and so much work to just write one sentence. But a book, they say, a book never dies immediately. It changes hands up to 7 people before a book vanishes. And it's there for posterity. If you write something, it doesn't matter whether you're here in this world or not. We still read all these classics, right? We still read Shakespeare and all these wonderful authors. You cannot go back and change it. It's your credibility on the line also. But Prabhupada wrote 125 volumes of books, which should take any normal human being 250 years. But I want to show you how he actually did it. So here we saw, when we read the verse, we saw the verse, which everybody has, the verse, right? But then he went through the word for word meaning for each word, and then he would do the purport. And these purports are based on the writings of his previous teachers. It's not something that Prabhupada is making up, right? So he has the writings of his previous teachers. And then we'll see how Prabhupada actually translated just a part. Okay.
Srila Srinath Chakravarti Thakur gives in this connection a description of the difference of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and ordinary living being. So this is difference of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and ordinary living being. This has been described in the previous verse. Sadbang Pumana Vida Gunang Sutadgyan Naveda Sadbhagya Mananta Mire. the purport is that Supreme Lord, He is omnipotent, omniscient, He knows everything, but the living being does not know actually what is the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the difference between the Supreme Personality of Godhead and ordinary living being.
So you could see how Prabhupada was doing it on the fly. So the book that he had in front of him was not something that he had actually written beforehand just to record. These were primary sources of Sanskrit commentaries of the various acharyas of the past. He would read through it and then use his dictaphone. The only time he actually checked was to see if actually the dictaphone was working in the first place. He said something and then played it again to see if it was recording right. And then he just went on. And that's it. And there is a documentary called As Brilliant as the Sun. If you want, you can go and check it out. This is actually a wonderful documentary on how the books were published when Prabhupada was there. But you could see his level of scholarship. This was not somebody who was writing and said, oh, scratch that, oh, not that word. He was doing things in a completely different plane. This was Srila Prabhupada. And yet, in his preface to his magnum opus, this is the translation that he did for the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's an 18-volume magnum opus containing 18,000 verses. Prabhupada would wake up every day at midnight 1:30 and then start his translation work. And to the preface of this Srimad Bhagavatam, he writes, I must admit my frailties in presenting Srimad Bhagavatam, but I am still hopeful of its good reception by the thinkers and leaders of society on the strength of the following statement of Srimad Bhagavatam. Tatvag visargo janataga viplavo yasmin pratishlokam vatyapi namanyanantasya yashonkitani yat shrinvanti gayanti grinanti sadava. On the other hand, the literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form and pastimes of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a transcendental creation meant for bringing about a revolution in the impious life of a misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literature, even though irregularly composed, is heard, sung and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. This was his humility. That although he was a scholar par excellence, he was saying, oh, I might have so many mistakes in my composition, but then I'm trying to present the message of the Lord. And you who are my audience, who are thoroughly honest, please see it for the message and try to avoid the mistakes I might make. If you go to a scholarly person, you know what is one of the qualities that they have that you can never miss? This incredible pride that they have all this knowledge, right? And yet for somebody who is a master, has the humility to say, I can make mistakes. This is the sign of a bona fide spiritual master, right? Not somebody who's saying, I am God, you follow me. This is Srila Prabhupada, where although he was a scholar par excellence, he had incredible humility with him. Another thing that was incredibly great about Srila Prabhupada was that he was a great leader. What do you think are some of the leadership qualities that should be in a leader? If you say somebody is a leader, what qualities would you expect in such a person? Any ideas? No wrong answers. I can start off you with one and see if you can add more. A leader is somebody where people see that he has a worthy purpose that I can follow him for. Right? If there is somebody who leads you, you think, oh, it's somebody I can follow. Yes? This is another important thing. A leader is somebody who actually does what they say. Leader is not somebody who says something but he does something else. Nobody will follow such a person, right? Yes, bro. Accomplishments, true. You need to actually accomplish stuff for you to be leader. You cannot just keep saying things in the air and say, I'm a leader. A leader is measured by the accomplishments that the leader has actually made, right? That's a really valid point. True. What else? Something very fundamental and important in a leader. Yeah, just not make followers, but empower them, right? Followers are different. It's a little different, right? You just blindly follow the leader. But a leader actually is able to make people leaders. Yes? Yes, exactly. And you look at all these things, qualities that we spoke of as a leader. Prabhupada had every single one of them, right? Prabhupada actually did what he asked everybody else to do. He said, worship Krishna. Krishna is the supreme person. Follow the 4 regulative principles. Chant the names of the Lord. He did it. He said, go out to the street and perform Sankirtan. When Prabhupada came to America, he knew nobody. This was Prabhupada. Where he came practically with no money to America, knew nobody here, on the orders of his spiritual master, that he was asked to spread Krishna consciousness in the West. So he had incredible faith in his spiritual master that he came to America, that too in 1965. I mean, now you have a lot of Indians in America. At that time, they were far and few. I mean, it was, I don't think, prevalent at all. He came, and then he had a lot of struggle coming also. It was not easy for him to come to America. And then he would go to a park called Tompkins Square Park in New York and sit under a tree and chant Hare Krishna every day for hours together. That's all. He had no money. He had a pair of kartals and the holy names of the Lord. He would chant and chant and chant every day. So what Prabhupada asked us to do, he didn't just say go and do it. He did it himself. He gave us an example of what he was asking us to do. And of course, he empowered so many people who went on to become incredible leaders and who still are here with us, who are leading our movement, right? This is the sign of a leader. And he actually knew what everybody was capable of. Especially, we are here in Dallas and we have the Pushpa Samadhi of Tamal Krishna Maharaj here in our park. And in Mayapur, there is a building called Lotus Building. And I was there and Mishra Bhagwan Prabhu was there and he was telling me the story when he took me to the Prabhupada's quarters in Lotus Building. Actually, Tamal Krishna Maharaj had incredible potential and Prabhupada knew it. So there was some argument happening and devotees were not happy. And then Tamal Krishna Maharaj himself was not happy, and in that situation he said, Prabhupada, in frustration, he said, Prabhupada, I might as well go to China then. And Prabhupada said, yes, that's a good idea. You can go to China. So the disciple is saying in the spur of the moment, in frustration, and yet the spiritual master recognizes the potential beyond the frustration. And then Tamal Krishna Maharaj went to China, and Krishna consciousness is there and spreading in China like anything because of Tamal Krishna Maharaj on the orders of his spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. So, Srila Prabhupada was an incredible leader, and all of this he was not doing with some mature 30, 40-year-old CEOs and CTOs. These were teenagers and people in their 20s who were frustrated with this world. At least they were called the hippies at that time. Right? They were frustrated with the material world. They had all the opulence, but they didn't find meaning in this world. And these were the people that the society had neglected. Right? This is another incredible point. Where Prabhupada lived in New York was in a place called Bowery, where the lowest of low people would live. You could see people crash on the streets by drug overdose. And these were the people that Srila Prabhupada was dealing with and purifying them and empowering them to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. This is a leader, right? He was not just a great leader, but Srila Prabhupada was also an incredible manager. You need both, right? You have so many people, you need to be able to manage them also in the right way. What do you think is the difference between a leader and a manager? Yeah, executes it, right? Yeah, exactly. The leader has this incredible vision and the charisma and tries to set uh, by actions, example by his actions. But that's just not enough. You need also the capacity to manage everything so that it is built on an incredibly strong platform. And this is what Prabhupada did. Right from instituting or incorporating the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, to teaching people how to maintain accounts, and figuring out how to actually manage people. There's a funny, I always, when I think of Prabhupada as a manager, I have this funny anecdote that comes to my mind of how Prabhupada wanted to make one of his disciple a temple president. And this person never wanted to be the temple president. It's actually a headache. You can ask Nrsimharupa Prabhu or any temple president how difficult it is to be a temple president. So he said, no, I really don't want to deal with this. I don't want to be the temple president. But Prabhupada was fixed on him being the temple president. So he got to know. So he had prepared a list of things that he would tell Prabhupada to say that, Prabhupada, I really don't want to take up this position of being a temple president. So when he came in, Prabhupada told him, I'm planning to give you sannyas. And this was a person who was newly married and just had a young child, I think. And he was like horrified at this thought of completely renouncing everything because of the young family and everything. And then his response to Prabhupada was, Prabhupada, I don't want to take sannyas, but I can do anything that you ask me to do. Okay, then I want you to be the temple president, he said. Just like the example of how Tamal Krishna Maharaj was sent to China. This is incredible management, other than seeing the leadership qualities in Tamal Krishna Maharaj, right? So Prabhupada had this incredible quality, especially for a fledgling movement. You needed somebody who had to be on top of things, on how to set up an institution, how to run the institution, and so many other things that is required on the part of managing. And he did all of this. At that time, we didn't have internet. We didn't have, we had TVs, I believe, but then it was very primitive. Telephone calls, yes. But the main method of him managing was what, Letters. It's a lost art. I haven't written a letter in, I don't know, in decades. But he managed everything, a worldwide movement, through letters that his disciples would write to him. That's how incredible Srila Prabhupada was. And last of all, the quality that I wanted to talk about was how Srila Prabhupada was an incredible teacher, which is what today signifies, right? Coming back to the point of how we're trying to surrender to a bona fide spiritual master, to a bona fide teacher. And Prabhupada had to teach from the most basic of things to the most exalted of things to his disciples. And he did it. He did it right from saying, you have to drink water like that, to the most basic things, to how to perform devotional service, how to worship Radha and Krishna, how can we progress in our spiritual life, how can we actually rediscover our actual identity, our relationship with Krishna. Prabhupada did all of that. And Prabhupada mainly did all of that through his books, which is what he spent incredible amount of time translating and writing his Bhaktivedanta purports. He said, the purports are my spiritual ecstasies. And the quality of an incredible teacher is that he leaves a mark long after his time. Prabhupada left our manifest presence in 1977. And yet, Prabhupada still influences all of us who have been generations away from Prabhupada left this world. This is the mark of an incredible teacher, where this is what it means in any book, for example, when you read, it's just not the book. If you actually interact with the book, you can actually interact with the material and the author writing the book. This is very much true in the case of spiritual books. Because Krishna is personally present in each of these words. The spiritual master is personally present in all of these words. And Prabhupada is still teaching us. He is our primary Siksha Guru, the spiritual master who gives instructions to the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, for all of us for all time to come. Without Prabhupada, we would not know anything. And he was such an incredible teacher that he would take incredibly complex topics and put it in ways that all of us can understand. That is why Srila Prabhupada is still relevant today. We have many, many sampradayas where we have seen that the sampradaya vanishes after the primary acharya leaves. I remember that one of my friends, a very dear friend of mine, he did his PhD in Oxford. And there used to be a professor from Madras, from the Madras University, who used to come and teach Sanskrit to him. This was Professor Narasimhachari. He was an incredible devotee of the Lord. He was a Sri Vaishnava, a sampradaya that's thousands and thousands of years old, an incredible Vaishnava sampradaya. And he would come and teach in the summers. And during the summer is when we have Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja. And he would see how these young 15, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds would celebrate the Vyasa Puja of Srila Prabhupada. And this was something that he was reflecting to my friend, is that Srila Prabhupada even now is able to touch the lives of youth, which is what many other sampradayas were missing. And he was so impressed by Srila Prabhupada that he wrote 100 Sanskrit verses glorifying Srila Prabhupada. This is the incredible nature of Srila Prabhupada, his teachings, and what we have access to. And especially these two qualities don't go well together. The first quality that we discussed of how Srila Prabhupada was a scholar par excellence and how he's an incredibly great teacher. Usually scholars cannot teach well. Their minds are so high up there that it's very hard for them to bring it down to the level of people that they need to teach those concepts to. But Srila Prabhupada was a master at it. He was an incredible teacher. If anybody had just one of these qualities of how you were a great scholar or a great leader or a great manager or a great teacher, you would be famous for just that one quality in this world. And yet Srila Prabhupada had all these wonderful qualities and named his institution the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, where he didn't want his name in the institution. If you see all these gurus, all the institutions are named after them. But Srila Prabhupada was very clear on what his focus was. He wanted to give Krishna to everybody. Many of us who immigrate to America come to America to take something from here, right? I want a nice life. I want to earn money. I want to have an incredible quality of life. But Prabhupada said, I didn't come here to take anything. I came here to give. How many of us can say that? That we didn't come to take anything. Prabhupada came here to give us, and not to give us anything ordinary. He came to give us the highest truths of spiritual life. He came to give us the holy names of the Lord. This is a 500-year-old prediction that Srila Prabhupada fulfilled Krishna, yesterday was Krishna's appearance day, and Krishna 500 years back incarnated as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You can see Gaur and Nitai on our altar on the other side. So that's Krishna and Balaram themselves incarnating as Chaitanya and Nityananda 500 years back. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu predicted that Prithivete Achayadi Nagaradi Gram Sarvatra Prachar Hoibe Moranam. That in every town and village my names will be sung. And you think about it. You can practically see in every town and village the names of Krishna are sung. You can hear the Hare Krishna mantra going around everywhere. And it is all possible because of one person, Srila Prabhupada. But if you asked him, he would say it was all possible because of the mercy of my spiritual master. And in fact, he went on to say to his disciples that you're all representative of my spiritual master. I am so grateful to you that you have helped me in serving my spiritual master. This is the quality of a bona fide spiritual master, where the bona fide spiritual master is a transparent via media between us and the Lord. He's not somebody who is actually collecting tokens from us before he let us see the Lord. He's not a blocking factor. He enhances our experience of the Lord. The example I really like is that of a telescope. We see the moon outside. We had Balram Purnima 1 week back, a full moon. It was so beautiful to see the moon outside. The moon by itself is just beautiful. But think about looking at the moon with a telescope. All the details that you can see, the clarity with which you can see the moon. This is the disciplic succession. This is the spiritual master, where the spiritual master is a lens in the telescope. It's a clear, transparent via media through whom we can look at the Lord and have even more details of the Lord. This is Srila Prabhupada. And the most incredible thing about Srila Prabhupada, despite him having all these wonderful qualities, is that he's a devotee of the Lord. He is a Vaishnav. And we sang a prayer when we started the class. We said, Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Kripa sindhu. You know what kripa means? Mercy. Sindhu? Ocean. Not a drop, not a bucket, not even a lake. An ocean of mercy. This is the nature of a devotee, especially a pure devotee of the Lord, who has nothing in his heart other than just to serve the Lord. This was Srila Prabhupada to us. And he created this institution, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, for all of us to experience love of God, Krishna Prema. This is our ultimate aim of life, to develop love for God. And Prabhupada created this institution to facilitate our progress in the ultimate aim of our life, love of God. Prabhupada, when he created ISKCON, gave 7 purposes of ISKCON. But if you read his books, he says so many different wonderful things about why ISKCON was actually created. And I was listening to the Vyasa Puja offering of the editors in the morning today, and they mentioned one specific thing about the nectar of instruction, what Srila Prabhupada says about the nectar, how the Vyasa Puja is actually an exchange, a loving exchange between us and the devotees and us and Srila Prabhupada, of how we are revealing our minds. This is actually one of the 6 loving exchanges that Rupa Goswami says. The 6 loving exchanges that we have with people, that we really have loving relationships, are we break bread with them, we offer food to them, we eat food that they prepare lovingly, we offer gifts, exchange gifts, and then we reveal our minds. And this is not something that we will do with everybody, right? How many of you just go and say somebody on the road and say, hey, you know, I want to say something to you, something I've been thinking about deeply for a long time. These are things that we really pick and choose the people that we do with, right? These are 6 loving exchanges, loving exchanges. And Srila Prabhupada says in the Nectar of Instruction, the verse that basically talks about it, in his purport, he says, let me read it. Okay, I can share the screen. All of us can read it. I hope my mark has not gone. Oh, it's gone. Okay, I think I can still find it. Krishna. Yeah, so I wanted to read this. Prabhupada says in his purport, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness has been established to facilitate these 6 kinds of loving exchanges between devotees. This society was started single-handedly. He's talking about himself, but in a very humble way. But because people are coming forward and dealing with give and take policy, the society is now expanding all over the world. We are glad that people are donating very liberally to the development of society's activities, and people are also eagerly accepting whatever humble contribution we are giving them in the shape of books and magazines, dealing strictly with the subject matter of Krishna consciousness. We sometimes hold Hare Krishna festivals and invite life members and friends to participate in the feasting by accepting prasad. Although most of our members come from the higher rungs of society, they nonetheless come and take whatever little prasad we are able to offer them. Sometimes the members and supporters inquire very confidentially about the methods of performing devotional service, and we try to explain this. In this way, our society is successfully spreading all over the world. And the intelligentsia of all countries are gradually appreciating our Krishna conscious activities. The life of the Krishna conscious society is nourished by these 6 types of loving exchanges among the members. It's something incredible, right? He's created the society, and this society has a life. But if you want to nourish the life of the society, Prabhupada is saying it is nourished by these 6 types of loving exchanges among the members. Therefore, people must be given the chance to associate with the devotees of ISKCON, because simply by reciprocating in the 6 ways mentioned above, an ordinary man can fully revive his dormant Krishna consciousness. This is it. This is what all of us are trying to do. This is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came. This is why Srila Prabhupada came to the West, is to just reawaken our dormant love for Krishna, love for God. And he says it can simply be done by having these 6 loving exchanges. And it's incredible what Prabhupada has given us. He built a house where the whole world can live in. Not one person has done it. He was relevant 50 years back. He'll be relevant today. He'll be relevant for the next 10,000 years, Srila Prabhupada said. He said, my books will be the law for the next 10,000 years. So this is his appearance day. And our previous temple president, Nityan Prabhu, always says, somebody who is really, opulent and rich is especially very pleased on his birthday. He's calling everybody to celebrate his party, and he can give everything that they ask. He says this for Krishna. But for Prabhupada, we don't even have to ask. He came to give us. We didn't know what to ask. This is it, right? Krishna expects us to first surrender. But a devotee actually approaches everybody and says, please take this. I don't want anything from you. You please take this. This is why a devotee is more merciful than Krishna. And today that mercy is so potent on the appearance day of an Acharya. Today is a day where we can actually ask Srila Prabhupada for his mercy. It's always available. Prabhupada's mercy. You see, the altar always has a opening and a closing time. Have you ever seen this? Prabhupada's altar closed? Prabhupada is always available for us. Krishna needs his time, But Prabhupada is not like that. Early morning, midnight, Prabhupada is there. So we can approach Prabhupada anytime, but today even more so, because it's his appearance day today. And it's his Vyasa Puja. He's a representative of Srila Vyasadeva. He's a bona fide spiritual master. And ask him for his mercy so that we may reawaken our dormant love for Krishna. If you want to know more about Srila Prabhupada, there is this wonderful book called Srila Prabhupada Leelamrita. I don't know if we have it in the book table here. You can go outside on the hallway and then you can look for it. There is an abridged version and there is also a 7-volume version. I would highly encourage you to take the 7-volume version. That's the first book I read before reading any of Srila Prabhupada's books. And you just know Srila Prabhupada, like he comes alive in the pages of those books. So I would highly encourage all of you to get a copy of that book today on this auspicious day, so that we can know more about Prabhupada, try to develop a relationship with Srila Prabhupada, and through his transparent via media, develop a relationship with Sri Radha Kalachandji. Thank you all so much for visiting and your attention. If you have any questions or comments or any reflections, something that you want to say about Srila Prabhupada, you can say that. Do you want to take the mic for we have online audience who are also listening.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that when he came to United States first time, nobody knew what is prasadam.
Yeah.
When he has to cook and to teach people with all these writing books and giving lectures and all that. I don't know how he could do all that stuff.
Yeah, actually this is famous, right? His 3-carrier cooker is really famous, where he could prepare for like 40 people in like half an hour. Prabhupada was expert at everything. This is one of the qualities of a devotee is daksha, is expert. And Prabhupada was expert. And this was the first instruction that he gave his disciples. You know what? You should eat up to your throat. And he would cook and feed them, and then they would just go away. They didn't know. But he, as a 70-year-old, would clean up after them. And finally people recognized, oh, we should also help Pichin. And then people started helping Srila Prabhupada. But he did everything. Very true. Thank you for that. Yes, Arjun Krishna.
You're right. So right. The Prabhupada is expert in everything. But one story comes to my mind. When Tamal Krishna Goswami was trained by Srila Prabhupada, he was making puris. And then Prabhupada would put the puri in, then he would touch it with the ladle, and it would puff up.
Yeah.
Tamal Krishna Goswami thought that was magic. How is he getting this to puff up? The other point I wanted to make about Srila Prabhupada, just this past year at the Maha Kumbh Mela, they gave Prabhupada a title that surpasses anybody in India. No matter what sampradaya that they're in or following, but Prabhupada is recognized as the most, do you remember the name of?
Vishwa Guru, something like that?
Jagat Guru.
Jagat Guru, there's another one too.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Prabhupada is at the top. And because of his teachings and what he produced, is still going on today. And it's continuing, like you said, for another 10,000 years. And this is all the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. We should be so fortunate that that Prabhupada came into our life at this particular time.
Yes.
It's almost miraculous.
Yes.
So all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you, Arjun Krishna Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Narsingh Rupa Prabhu.
Yeah, I think there is one more thing which comes to mind. I'm not sure how true it is, but he came on the ship by the Scindias.
Correct.
They were the one who had the shipping thing.
Correct.
And I think on his way to the US, he had 2 heart attacks.
Correct.
And I think at that age, and then he survived 2 heart attacks. And I think when he landed in Boston, I think he came to Boston first.
Boston port.
Before he came to New York.
Correct.
And I think there is some mention that when he got out, he had no idea whether to go to the right or the left.
Yes.
He had no directions, no instructions, and he just landed and was deciding whether I go to the left or the right. And then I think over a period of time he came to New York, which is where the first temple was established.
Correct. That's very true. It is true. What you said was correct. That Srila Prabhupada, when he came, he didn't come in a cruise ship. He didn't even come in a passenger ship. He came in a cargo ship. And it's not very comfortable. And he was coming when he was 70 years old. And he got 2 heart attacks. And we have his diary. The Jaladuta was the name of the ship. The Jaladuta diaries are still available. And he wrote in this diary that, Krishna, if I have another attack, I will die. He was almost at the verge of leaving his body. And then the next day, the captain said something miraculous had happened, that he had never seen the Atlantic Ocean so calm before. The ship was so smooth for the rest of the journey. So Krishna was personally intervening, but it was not without hardships that Srila Prabhupada came, just by the faith in the instructions of a spiritual master, right? This is the quality of a bona fide spiritual master also, is that he is constantly trying to follow the instructions of his spiritual master. Because Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur asked him to preach in the West, he came and he didn't know whether to go left or right. He knew nobody. He actually knew an acquaintance whose son was living in Butler, Pennsylvania, Gopal Gupta, I think. So he actually had given him an invite to come, a sponsorship. It's very true. I think we are almost out of time. Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Let's give Srinath Krishna Prabhu a big Hari Bo. Hari Bo. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for the wonderful class.